Good afternoon, this is Peter Towers from ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this webinar on ESS BIZTOOLS with particular emphasis in this webinar on business advisory services. Where do you start? I hope you've all had a great day and are ready for this webinar. We'll get started in a few moments. Just waiting, there's still people coming on registering for the webinar. If you have any questions whilst we're going through, could you please type in your question and in webinar jargon raise your hand, and I will answer the questions later in the webinar. If you think of any questions later on, by all means please send us an email, peter@ESSBizTools.com.au. Once again, welcome. What I'm showing you now is the home page for ESS BIZTOOLS. There is a diagram chart which explains the relationships of the various components of ESS BIZTOOLS in the overall scheme of things. We have developed products primarily based on the ESS papers. There's 500 odd papers targeted at small, medium enterprises, and there are 50 papers that are prepared for accountants for you to use. We don't suggest you give those papers to your clients, but the papers targeted at small businesses have been utilized to develop the products that are contained within the system. The first area, and what is now the main area and what we're going to concentrate on today, is business advisory services. Business advisory services is the section of this product which enables you to start earning professional fees from providing a range of services which are not compliance. So when we go into there, we'll look at, first of all, the 13 modules that are there to assist an accountancy business to prepare them yourselves to offer business advisory services. This is the foundations, and it's very important. We also have 15 modules on various products that are prepared, ready for use. Debtors, succession planning, business planning, personal property securities register, and leadership and others. So that is what is combined with other material within ESS BIZTOOLS makes up what we've called the business advisory services. Business Plus is a newsletter which we produce every month bar January, and in May there's 2 extra editions, one on the federal budget that affects small business and the other one on an end-of-year tax planning checklist. These newsletters are prepared so that our accountant subscribers can badge them with their name, logo, etc., and send them to their clients. The newsletters are targeted at the small business, not at the accountancy firm. There is not many articles on taxation because our research tells us that small businesses don't like receiving newsletters from their accountants that are full of taxation articles. Client mentoring and coaching is the educational area, whereby we have pre-prepared 12 modules of papers to be sent to clients to assist them in a particular phase of their business operations. So if they're starting a business, or they're experienced business operators, or they're wanting to deal more appropriately with the bank, or they're thinking of trying to raise capital from angel investors, or they want some more input on family businesses, we've collected material and have put it together into a suggested mailing list so that you can email it to the clients to give them information. The other very important aspect of this is it conveys to your clients that your firm are prepared to offer services other than taxation. Because even though survey after survey of small business operators around Australia conducted by organisations like CCH, MYOB, Smith Inc. 2020, the old FMRC, various universities have all shown that probably in excess of 80% of small medium enterprises want more financial services provided to them. A lot of SMEs don't fully appreciate that their accountant that prepares their tax return could probably supply those services if the accountant wants to deliver those services. One way of educating the clients that your firm is able to provide these services is by sending them material, letting them understand what key performance indicators are all about, letting them understand what break-even analysis is about, letting them understand the mechanics of preparing a business plan by seeing some of it. Leadership modules have been prepared by a separate consultancy, Leadership Academy, which is headed by Peter McDougall, a former colonel in the Australian Army. For 20 years, that organisation concentrated on government and big end of town businesses. I convinced McDougall to write a series for small businesses. So we have 8 modules that in the first instance we suggest you might use with your own team and your own firm, and then you could start using the material with clients. A number of our subscribers are successfully doing that. They're using the leadership modules as a basis for conducting leadership training for their clients. ESS Biz Grants is a separate standalone product on a separate website which facilitates the identification of grants that might suit an individual business. So I'm just getting a message here that some of you can't hear me properly. We'll just try to fix up the audio to fix that up, and hopefully that will rectify the situation. ESS Biz Grants is material that will assist in identifying government grants. It's not the purpose of today's webinar. We have separate webinars on ESS Biz Grants in the next few days, but I just mentioned that they're to you at this stage. Just a reminder for those of you who clicked on a little bit after we'd started, if you have any questions, please type them in and raise your hand and send them through to me. We also have client seminars. They were the first new product that we developed after the papers, and they will assist you to run webinars or seminars for your clients. There are 34 pre-prepared seminars in the system, and we have hundreds of tools and forms to assist in the delivery, and there are video tutorials for virtually every aspect of ESS BizTools that we can send you the access details so you can download those from YouTube. So that's the introduction of what's included in ESS BizTools. We now go to products. We have a list of the products, and today's theme of this webinar is to concentrate on business advisory services. Where do you start? So we think you start where we go on to the business advisory services area of our website. This website is very close to being replaced. We have a new website close to finalisation. Part of the process there, we are going to split these 2 items into 2 separate pages because the products have grown over time. But what we have on the left-hand side with the mauve background is the introduction to business advisory services, and that's primarily where we're going to concentrate today. And on the right-hand side, we have the modules that have been prepared. So I'll just show you both of those. So on the left-hand side in the mode background, we have Introduction to Business Advisory Services, Getting Organised, Offering Business Advisory Services, and Implementation. That is basically the preparation process to help an accountancy business get prepared to be able to deliver business advisory services. Then we go through the team training preparation, the material which we've included to help in team training. Specialist areas then like leadership. How do you instill leadership principles within the team that are going to be delivering business advisory services? How do you market these products? Bearing in mind that most accountants, including myself, went through our careers, or you're in your career still. I've been doing consulting for the last 14 years, but in accounting, you generally didn't have to market, but things are changing. Accountants have to start marketing these days, and some are already doing it, and some are doing it very well. So we've got some suggestions there as to how you might market. We're not suggesting advertisements in major newspapers or anything like that, but there is a process to market. There's a need to select products that you might be going to offer. There's a product we've developed called the SME Needs Analysis, which is like a menu of services that you can use to have a discussion with your client to clearly understand what your client is concerned about. We then have a procedure to help you finally select the products you're going to offer to start with. And we have a suggestion as to how you launch business advisory services with your clients. Our suggestion is you do it through a series of small seminars, no more than 20 people at a time, because the last thing you want with the launch of a new product like this is to have too many people accepting at the same time. So by having a series of small seminars, they might be a couple of months apart, hopefully you're able to handle the acceptances that you receive from them, because part of this process that we recommend is that you interview your key clients. So you're going to know who's told you they're very keen for this to happen, and they should be the first ones you're inviting to your seminars, so you can score runs from the very beginning. And how do you sell business advisory services? Indeed, how do you sell any professional services? We have utilized the services of Trevor Marchant from Marchant Dallas, professional sales coaches, and have written material based on our experience of working with Trevor, and that's available. Incidentally, we do recommend that accountants who are really going to get into this space, though, do consider undertaking a professional sales course with organisations like Dallas Marchant. And then we have some videos. The product on the right-hand side is the products that's included within the system. The debtors management, a systems manual for debtors, which is prepared, ready for you to use to hand to your clients. We have business health checks, and we have procedures prepared for 5 industries, and we have another 5 which we'll be adding to that component in the next couple of weeks. Business evaluation workshop, budgets and cash flow forecasts, chief financial officer services, strategic business mentoring, cash flow management, business planning. There are 45 individual business planning questionnaires included in there, and we've configured some of the questionnaires into questionnaires for individual industries: succession planning, selling businesses, survival in difficult times, identifying grants, personal property securities register, the big issue for accountants at present. And we are going to cover that in a little bit later today, because we'll have a look at that product. And leadership, which has now been developed into 8 separate modules to enable leadership strategies to be discussed with clients. So if we just go back to the beginning, in the introductory area, we might start with getting organized. I'll just pick some of these at random so that you can get an appreciation of how this works. This is getting organized for business advisory services. We have an article to guide you through. We call it a paper, but it's basically an article. This contains a list of the items within the forms that we are using to conduct the review. We go to view. This is the PDF documents. The other side are the Word documents. They take longer to download. So you receive the paper, Business Advisory Services. Incidentally, this double line here is on all of our papers. The other 550 of them, that 500 are directed at small businesses and 50 at accountants. So this one is a paper that's directed at accountants. They are numbered with prefixes starting at 500 and they can go through to 599. We haven't used that many yet, but they are in those areas. You could put this space above there, you could put your logo and your firm name, and it's probably more important in the papers targeted at small businesses because you can send those papers to your clients if you're a subscriber. So we have the paper, and then there's a whole range of forms. So we just might work our way through this so you get some appreciation of what's included. So this is how do you get organized for business advisory services. So the theme today was where do you start? Now this is a continuation on from an earlier, the earlier article or paper, which really went through why you would do this in generally getting organized. And we suppose that there would be a report prepared by someone, an internal person, a partner or a manager or a consultant. And we've got a balanced scorecard questionnaire which we'll show you shortly. We do suggest that there should be a think tank meeting to look at how you're going to organize this whole service, that you review the results of the balanced scorecard, that in that think tank meeting you look very carefully at client comments. In my experience, over 80% of clients will indicate they want you to offer a wider range of services, and that coincides with the surveys that have been done. But a number of clients also make comments that are very similar to this. Now that you've told us you're contemplating doing this work, make sure you do it, because we want you to do it. We have a SWOT analysis approach included so that the team, the accountants, the partners, the managers, and the marketing people, if you are employing marketing people, and incidentally, I believe in the next few years, most accountancy businesses, especially those offering business advisory services, will be employing marketing people, can have their input. So as you can see there, this paper or article is guiding you through what should be done. These forms are all linked, but we're going to go straight to them in a moment. We do argue the concept that you should have product champions so that you have people in your organization who become your succession expert or your your business health check expert, key performance indicators, ratios, benchmarking, etc. And very importantly, your personal property securities register expert. It's important to get team members' comments back. And we have articles there which will assist in the development of career development. Some of your accountants will be a bit apprehensive about going down this new path of becoming, in effect, a virtual chief financial officer for small business clients. Some of them will need some extra training and mentoring. It might be training in public speaking, it might be training in running seminars and webinars. The public speaking might be for their own confidence. They might be a bit nervous to talk to more than 2 or 3 people. Well, why not encourage them to join Toastmasters or one of those sort of organisations? There may be some benefits in having some of your people undertake the Institute of Company Directors Diploma course so that A, they can meet a lot of other interesting people who have got growth aspirations for their business, otherwise they wouldn't be doing that course. But also it allows them to be able to meet clients on a more even playing field because they know they've undertaken that course. So we've got a mentors checklist. We recommend that each of your team who are going to be the key people in the delivery of business advisory services have a mentor, someone to assist them, sit down and talk to them over a cup of coffee every few months. And how ready is the firm to deliver all this? So we'll now go through some of these forms so that hopefully you're getting an idea of the standard, the quality of the product which we're making available to you. We've been supplying these products for over 10 years to firms all over Australia and New Zealand. And we've been continually updating them. What some person might have subscribed to 10 years ago is completely different to what we've got today. So there's a team member survey form. This is for your accountants and managers to complete, to get them to comment of what turns them on in their job and what disappoints them. What knowledge do they have that no one's using? And it's quite interesting when I do consultancy work for accountancy firms, sometimes you find that you've got someone that's got, I found one last year that had been a journalist in a previous life, in fact had a journalistic degree. And the firm was there mucking around themselves trying to work out how to write newsletters and articles. Well, why not get the guy that had some journalistic knowledge? He mightn't have wanted to be a full-time journalist and decided to become an accountant, but he had those skills. And we've listed there the services that your team should be able to indicate what they like doing. Now, don't be surprised if some of them just tick the tax and superannuation items, and that's fair enough. My observation is that around 90-odd% will initially say they're keen to get involved in this, but 10% will say they're not. They've worked a long time to understand taxation. They don't want to develop further skills. And when it's finalised in an implementation type program, I think you'll get around 70 to 80% of your team are keen. That's your professional team. And out of that, you then need to select who are going to be your champions. So we've listed here a range of business advisory services, and you can probably add some others that you might like to put in there that your team can indicate to you the sort of work that they're interested in doing. The next form is a client questionnaire. I think it's very important that you get feedback from clients. One of the things that I'm quoting is that the surveys all say that a significant majority of clients would like additional services. But within your own firm, you'll have people that say, oh yeah, but our clients are different. Oh no, we've got graziers, or we've got retailers, or we've got chemists, or whatever. So a lot of people think that they're unique. So one way to overcome this and really to get client buy-in and perhaps prevent or stall a client making a decision to go to someone else, because this is happening in the marketplace, that clients are deciding that some accountants are not willing or able to supply some of these value-added services, and they're going to someone else. Indeed, at a Smith Inc. 2020 conference on the Gold Coast in 2012, one of the keynote speakers was a partner in a fairly large firm in one of the capital cities, and in his presentation made the comment that accountants need to be continually marketing the type of services they've got. His example was he was reviewing the profit and loss account before the client came in to see him. And there was an entry, business consulting, $26,000. He rang the client, and after going through the pleasantries, asked the client what this money was for. And the client said, "Oh, yeah, I got a coach, and I'm very happy with it." The partner said to him, "Do you know we could have supplied those services?" The partner said to the conference, the phone went dead for about 30 seconds. Then the client said to me, "I've been your client for 15 years. You've handled the taxation, superannuation, some correspondence with the Australian Security Investment Commission and a few other things for me, but not once have you told me you could have supplied the range of services that the coach has been able to deliver. If I had known you were doing this work, most certainly I would have talked to you about it. But everything you've ever sent to me is to do with taxation. I get newsletters that are full of taxation. I've never realized that you were interested in analyzing my debtors to see why they're currently sitting at 52 days and trying to help me get them down to under 40 days. And that's going to save me over $200,000. You've never told me that. You've never sat down and really talked to me about my key performance indicators." And he also said, "You've never benchmarked my business against others." So the partner said, "Well, that was a lesson for me in that I didn't realize that we were not communicating properly to our clients." So one of the ways you can do this is to be inviting some of your clients, maybe 20 of them, into this process to get some feedback. So there's a form. We don't suggest you actually hand that form to the client, but have one of the other partners, not the one that normally handles this particular client, interview them. Go and have a cup of coffee with them or a lunch. Get their feedback and what they like about your firm, what they dislike, and more particularly, what other services would they like you to provide. Because the example I gave you before, someone just voluntarily went off and paid $26,000 to a business coach. And there's examples of that happening all over the place, primarily because in lots of ways the accountancy profession has not been seen to be providing this service for small, medium enterprises. So there's a number of questions there. Questions about the office. Is the location convenient? Is the parking convenient? What's your website? Does it convey information that clients want? Can they get on there when they can't sleep at 2:30 a.m. in the morning and make a booking, or to find their tax file number if for some reason they want to know that at 2:30 in the morning? So we've listed other subjects there, so it's a fairly comprehensive form, that one. And we're asking them what other services they'd like, because at the end of the day, they're going to pay for all this. We have a form then there's a template for the report to go back to the firm's partners by whoever's been given the job of undertaking a review to decide whether you wish to proceed with this process. We also have included in there a calculation of the projected revenue that should be able to be earned. Now, sometimes people ask me how much. I don't think your fair income in getting into business advisory services, if you couldn't generate $50,000 per annum. Some people are generating significantly more than that. But when you look at that breakup and say, well, geez, how many clients have we got? How many people could we sell these sort of services to? Then you look at an average fee and multiply it. You'll be surprised how much money it comes to. Then what you need to do is make sure you adequately staff it or train your people so you can deliver it. I talked about the SME needs analysis before. Here's the questionnaire, which is first of all looking at current business performance. How's the business? Is the client happy with the margins? Are they happy with things like stock turnover? Are they happy with benchmarking. Do they know what benchmarking is? Are they receiving a benchmarking report? And more importantly, is someone helping them to understand the benchmarking report? I don't think business in the small business area should be any different to the large business area. I was the CFO in a listed public company for 12 years, and I saw it with my CEO. Now, he knew a little bit about a lot of things. He knew a lot about some things, I've got to admit. But he then relied on about 8 or 9 internal experts, of which I was one. But there was sales, there was production, there was marketing. Isn't a small business exactly the same? But the problem is we leave it all to this one small business operator to try to fathom out a lot of these things. So I think we need to be accepting more that the accountant of the future is going to be this virtual CFO, to be able to assist the client to understand some of these things. The client doesn't want to know how to calculate debtors' days outstanding, for argument's sake, but they need to know what their KPI is out of that. Is their budget's been set on 35 days and they then will react when they're sitting on 40 days, or do they not understand how this figure's calculated? So this review, I think, will unearth a lot of that. Now, frankly, we suggest that this type of review is performed over about a 2-hour period, and frankly, I wouldn't charge the client because I think you will get significant work out of this sort of review. Government grants, they know about them. The reason we developed ESS Biz Grants, we already had material on government grants in our product, was that David Smith, the former president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants and the managing director of Smith Inc., had dinner with me one night and said, why do you think there's a problem with government grants with accountants? I said, because accountants don't know about them. I said, why do you ask? He said, I'm doing due diligence reviews for one of the accounting firm aggregators, and part of that is to interview clients of accountants who have said they would like to consider being acquired by an aggregator. And he said one of the most common responses I'm getting from these clients when they're asked to criticize their accountancy firm is they don't tell us about government grants. And Smithy's comment to me was clients get very upset when they find out that a competitor's got a grant and they read about it in the local newspaper or hear about it in the pub or a club on a Friday night when the competitor's bragging about it or there's a bit of a party going on. So, taxation planning. We don't talk too much about taxation in ESS BIZTOOLS because we've always assumed it was well covered. But one of the intriguing things for me from many of the surveys conducted by MYOB is that tax planning is listed as a subject that SMEs are saying they need more advice on. I assumed that they were receiving the tax planning advice, but they list it as an area they want more advice on. Then we start moving into future. Does the client want a business plan? If you sat down and ever asked your clients, would they like a plan? Where are they headed? I believe a plan for a business person is like a map for tourists. How are you going to know when you get whether you're there unless you have worked out where you want to be? Business valuations. Obviously, there's specialist products like B-Star, but you can do business valuations without external products. But I think the important thing to do is to establish what the client believes the business is worth, and then for you to calculate what you think the business is worth. Invariably, there's a gap. It always seems to be that the accountant's valuation is under the client's. And then you can identify that gap, which might be $500,000 or $1 million, and determine a strategy that might be 6 months or it might be 3 years to try to bridge the gap. Services that you're going to be able to provide, and we've got details of those within our system. What about their wealth creation? What about risk management? Buy-sell agreements, sickness and accident covers. wills, personal property securities register reviews, succession and estate planning, and so it goes on, business improvement, finance, etc. So that's an overview of that product. Hopefully you can see there's a fair bit of material contained therein. If we had a look at leadership strategies, this is an introduction to leadership. There's always an executive summary, which is what I've just skimmed through a bit. I'll just check there's no questions. If you've got any questions, please type them in and raise your hand, and I will try to answer them later on. But if you think of questions later on, send me an email. Thanks. So we think it's important that there's some consideration given to leadership within this material. Our vision is that a lot of this business advisory services work will be done by your managers and accountants who will need to be trained. In the model we've developed, we see the partner as being the rainmaker and the mentor, because partners in most firms are already very busy. So we think it's necessary to take your team through a leadership strategy. There are far more detailed modules in another section of our product. This is in the getting prepared area, to make sure that these managers and invariably younger accountants realize the responsibility that they're taking on, and that they understand the vision and are able to communicate it. The material written on leadership relies on writings of John Cotter, who's a leadership expert, and the material is there, and it's linked to a whole stack of other material. The other material here then is marketing strategies, and I'll just go through this again so you can get some idea of the detail that's included in the system to assist you to get ready. In this paper we talk about digital disruption. Deloitte has updated their report on digital disruption in the last couple of weeks. Deloitte's believe that by 2017 there is going to be a significant change to a lot of professional firms, of which accountancy businesses are one. Therefore, is there an opportunity for you to be talking to other professional businesses that might be your clients, lawyers, engineers, architects? Because Deloitte has bundled all of those professions under one general heading called professional services. It's not just accountants that are going to have a 32% change in their businesses, according to Deloitte. So there's some commentary there on marketing. And these are all linked to surveys, the MYOB survey, the CCH survey of 18 months ago, Smith Inc. 2020, and accountants don't have to go out and take TV ads or run newspaper advertisements, I don't think, to effectively market. The internet has been a great invention for smaller businesses, of which most accountants are one of them. Use the tools that you've got, develop databases, communicate with your clients, tell them what's going on so that you can communicate with them. So that's a brief overview of marketing. It then goes into forms, which will assist. And in fact, there's the story that I was just talking to you about the comment made at the Surface Paradise conference about the $26,000. If you ever come across that in any of your clients' profit and loss accounts, if not, think yourself lucky. What would you say if you did come across it? Is there something you should be doing now to make sure you never have to face that particular problem? What I might do now is move across into the business advisory services products so that you can understand how we assemble. I'm picking on personal property. I know we've run some special webinars on it and we're going to be doing it again. I am very frightened about this whole Personal Property Securities Act. I think it's a time bomb ticking away that is going to have some dramatic effect on some small businesses, and accountants will get dragged into this. There's a great debate going on in the profession, I know, as to whose responsibility it is. There's no doubt in my mind that clients need to be talking to a commercial solicitor. My first question to you on this, though, is this. How many of your clients have got a commercial solicitor? When I was in practice, I used to always ask my clients when I did the annual review with them, who was their solicitor. I must admit in those days I didn't use the word commercial. And I would get told, no, we haven't got one, or I had one 10 years ago for a divorce, or I had a car accident 15 years ago. But I said, no, who do you go to every year? You should have an annual legal checkup. In my opinion, the majority of small business operators have not got a regular connection to a commercial solicitor. And therefore, in the marketplace, many small business operators are unaware of the Personal Property Securities Act and its requirements unless they've been alerted to it by trade and business associations and have taken seriously the information that's contained therein. Unfortunately, my surveys also tell me that a lot of accountants have switched off on it and are not taking much notice of it. Well, unfortunately, I think there's some problems. The rumours have it that there are a couple of accounting firms being sued by disgruntled clients over this legislation, over not being kept informed of what's happening. And one of the problems is when a client has not got a regular commercial solicitor and you're the professional person that's talking to them hopefully more than once a year, but you're talking to them at least once a year for taxation. And this new legislation's been brought out, should you have been communicating with them and making sure they went and saw a commercial solicitor and making sure that they had a new terms of trade agreement prepared and a retention of title agreement prepared. We wrote an article that hopefully you saw recently about Ramalpa clauses. Are they still operative? Well, they are, as long as they were drafted by a commercial solicitor after the 31st of January 2012, because the ones prior to that did not comply with the requirements of the Personal Property Securities Act. And the Ramalpa clause type agreement, the retention of title agreement, on its own without a terms of trade agreement is not worth anything when it comes to this legislation. We believe that if accountants are the trusted advisor to small businesses, that part of that responsibility is to be asking questions about the client's preparation for the Personal Property Securities Register processes. And my recommendation to you is that if the client tells you they don't want to talk to you about any of that, you write them a letter, and our system has a suggested letter indicating that you have talked to them and that they have declined any advice from you. Because when in 5 years, or if in 5 years' time, I try to be a a little bit less definite. If in 5 years' time that client has a problem with someone else that causes a insolvency event and the client is left losing a lot of money because they didn't register on the PPSR, you don't want to be caught in the crossfire that the client then comes back and decides to take legal action against you. So our recommendation is if the client declines any suggestions, that you make sure you've covered yourself. What I brought up while I was giving you that overview is the procedure control form. Every one of our products within the business advisory services area has a procedure control form. So this guides you through the process of, first of all, preparing a quotation to undertake a personal property securities review. We launched this product about 6 weeks ago. We are selling it as a separate product if people wish to subscribe to it separately, but it is also part of our gold package. I've checked with a number of the firms that are using it. Some reviews are taking an hour. One firm has told me they spent nearly 8 hours going through and reviewing it. They're all charging normal professional fees to undertake this process. I believe it should be undertaken every 6 months to make sure that the client is not deviating from a system that's been put in place. Because whilst you don't have to register every invoice, transactions with new customers need to be considered. Variations in arrangements with customers need to be considered. And most importantly, where your client is placing assets on someone else's property is very important to be closely monitored to ensure that consideration is given to a registration. Whilst I was talking then, I've clicked on to a form. This is the key form within our personal property securities register system. It's a form to help you conduct the due diligence review of your client, and hopefully this will give you an insight to the quality of the product that we've produced. It's very important that you analyze the client's stock. Where is it? If it's not on the client's own premises, where is it? Anything that's on someone else's premises can be a problem. Obviously, registration on this register is voluntary, so I think you need to establish what your client's financial disaster tolerance level is. So in other words, if a client's got $5,000 worth of stock sitting in someone else's warehouse and an insolvency event occurs and the client hasn't registered that stock on the register, is that going to financially embarrass the client, losing $5,000? It might for some of your clients. For others, it might be $100,000. But the sum, I think, needs to be considered. And then the system's put in place to ensure that this type of location of stock is monitored. We've included livestock and adjustment. Livestock and adjustments is a huge problem. Unfortunately, there's been a number of grazing properties go into liquidation or administration over the last 12 months. What happens if your client's got 500 head of their cattle adjusting on that property? We've included thoroughbred horses primarily because there's been an infamous court case in New Zealand where a thoroughbred stallion was leased to a breeding farm, and the lease payments weren't paid, and the business got into difficulties as well, and a liquidator was appointed. The New Zealand High Court allowed the liquidator to seize the stallion and sell the horse. According to reports, it was worth over $2 million. You wouldn't have wanted to be the accountant for that client, would you? Livestock review. Crops are a very important area in this. Grain, any sort of crop that's been placed into a silo or a pooled type storage facility. There are provisions for this, so we're asking questions. Goods within the possession of the business. Where are they? Where have they been left? Artist works come into this. Paintings, sculptures, designs, carvings, works of art. There was big problems in downtown Auckland just after this legislation was introduced in New Zealand, when one of the major organisations that sell artwork got into some difficulties. Word got out, artists and sculptors, etc., were turning up to try to get their goods and were met by security guards that wouldn't let them in, and most of them had not done anything about the personal property securities requirements. Plant and equipment, where is it? Things like formwork and tradesmen's tools and sheds, builders' sheds. There's a big case in New Zealand of a builder's shed company, hadn't registered. Cranes. The big issue at present also is on rental assets, and at this stage, if the article has not got a serial number, the rental period is normally 12 months. But if you have a item that's deemed to be for no fixed period, then that is something that potentially should be registered if it's worth an amount of money which would embarrass the client. So I'll just skip through these. This keeps on going. Looks at motor vehicles. Where are they? Who's got them? What sort of arrangements? Because all this falls under this legislation. Boats, aircraft. There's a move in Parliament to change the 90-day period, which currently applies for serial number assets like boats and aircraft and motor vehicles, but it hasn't been finalised yet. I don't know if I'd put money on things like this getting through the Senate at present. They don't seem to be wanting to pass anything. So it's been passed by the House of Reps, but could be a while before that change gets put through the Senate. Aircraft leased, other physical assets, your debtors. There are, if you've drafted it properly, the retention of title or remarpa clauses can still apply. There's a new term being introduced called accession, which can be of benefit. There are some benefits out of this legislation, but for small business, I think there's a lot of negatives also. And the negatives mainly are people who have not understood that they need to give consideration as to whether they should register. When the GST was introduced, the government of the day spent millions on educating small business operators. No one could go broke through the GST. The Personal Property Securities Register was introduced by the previous government without much fanfare, with no training program, nothing like the GST. But unfortunately, you could have a client go broke through the Personal Property Securities Act and non-compliance with the requirements of the Personal Property Securities Register. Another interesting area is intellectual property. If you've got that lease from one company to another and the second company has borrowed money and this is a secured creditor, you could have some problems. Loans, the same thing applies. Service company arrangements, there's already, one of the funny things in all, well, not funny I suppose if you got them, but I never acted for a client that had statutory fishing rights, but that is something else that also gets mentioned in the legislation. Assets held on trust needs to be considered. Service entity arrangements. There's been a court case lost by the person that paid for the assets called the QES case, that one company had bought all these tractors. They were hired to another company within the same group. Unfortunately, someone forgot two things. They forgot that the second company had borrowed money from a bank, and the other thing they forgot was to register on the PPSR. The second company got into some financial difficulties. I gather company one thought they could just turn up and take their tractors away, earth-moving equipment, but they were met by security people who told them they couldn't. It went to the Supreme Court of Queensland and the court agreed with the liquidator. So that's hopefully giving you some overview of what's involved in personal property. It's one of the big issues that we believe accountants need to be looking at very seriously. So we'll get back out of that now and we go back to the work checklist. So what I'm going to do now is just, because our time is nearly up and I don't seem to have any questions. I just might move on. People continually ask me at these type of sessions to show our newsletter, so we'll show you our Business Plus newsletter. This is produced, as I said in the opening, every month bar January and twice in, or two extras in May, one on the federal budget as it affects small business and the other on an end-of-year tax planning checklist. The concept is that it is loaded to our website around 12 noon Queensland time on the second Friday of a month. We've been producing these. This is issue number 108. We've been producing these for 7.5 years for clients. The accountancy firm removes our logo there and puts their own in and name. There's articles. This one's always got an editorial article. Most of our articles, though, have a call to action. We want the clients to read this and say, geez, we should do something about it. So this article here is talking about the economy and a process review. We're saying if you would like to discuss any aspect of the process review for your business, please don't hesitate to contact the accountant within our firm that you normally deal with. Unashamedly, this is a marketing tool. We've been running some comments on some of the government grants, especially the new business growth grants. We had to change our article because even though the government announced the new rules for business growth grants in July, they then changed the rules in early September, so we had to update that. We don't write much on tax, but we wrote a small article on Bitcoin, or our tax writer wrote a small article on Bitcoin to go in there. Ramalpa clauses don't work anymore. I referred to that earlier. There are a lot of people, including some accountants, who think old Ramalpa clauses still work. And in fact, there's a quotation there. One of these previous webinars, we had an insolvency practitioner in the participants. He made some comments and then I got them to put them in writing. He's saying about Ramalpa clauses, unfortunately, the business owner generally finds out the hard way when faced with an insolvency practitioner who tells them they no longer have the title or ownership of goods that they paid for. I think that is a very, very cruel process, to be honest. But so we're talking about clients should come and see you. We've been running characteristics of a well-run business for over a year. This is just talking about how clients can better use professional advisors. We've been running a series for over 6 months on what services can accountants offer, trying to market your non-compliance services to your clients. And there's a bit of a tax update telling people what's going on in getting the federal budget through. Attention accountants is a segment which we suggest you withdraw, but it's there to give you some reference material to give you better background on some of the articles that have been included in the newsletter. So that's the newsletter. You can go back for the last 4 years' issues on our site if you wish, but it's there ready for you to use. So in general, what I've given you is a cook's tour on ESS BIZTOOLS. We have concentrated, as we promoted, business advisory services. Where do you start? We believe you start with our introductory modules. Our commercial for today is the price for a 12-month subscription that incorporates everything we've shown you today together with access to ESS Biz grants is a cost of $2,700. That is per office. You can have as many authors or users as you wish, and that will give you a 24/7 access to the material. We run special training webinars when you first become a subscriber, and we run a webinar each month for subscribers to go through particular issues of using this product. I've got a question here, so I'll read it because I know time's now of the essence. I assume all necessary info re-subscription costs, etc., can be attained from the website and particular access to the business advisory papers. Yes, and just to show you where that is, I should have shown you that before. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. We have a form called Pricing and Sign Up. That form is on the site. It gives you a complete summary. We do have packages. So we have gold, silver, bronze, business plus only. We have some firms that just want business plus only. You can go onto our website and see that. You can go to our website and get a 30-day guest login, which will allow you to have a look at most of the material. Anything that's in bright yellow in its name, you can download free of charge and look at that. You can access ESS Biz Grants at www.essbizgrants.com.au and avail yourself of a 2-week free trial of Biz Grants to trial 2 or 3 clients to see how the system works. So thank you very much for your participation today. I don't think we've got any further questions. If you think of any further questions you'd like to ask me later on, please send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, and we'll be happy to discuss, or you can ring us on 1-800-232-088, and we will give you the answers to your questions. Thank you very much for participating today. I hope that we've given you a detailed summary of what we believe is necessary to get started on business advisory services. Good luck on this journey. I'm sure you'll find it a very exciting one and very beneficial for your clients and also for you and your team members within your accountancy firms. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good day.